Salut! Time for a quick review. None of the information in this section or this video is new. It's just kind of bringing everything together from the 5 learning targets for this section. Next class, you'll actually get a study guide so that you can get ready for the test. So just as a quick review, the first learning target we had was being able to use and understand classroom items. I know you already have a list of all of our classroom items, so that's not anything I need you to do. But one thing that I like to point out is there are actually only 6 items on our list that are feminine, besides the word for girl or a female student or a female teacher, which is pretty obvious that it's feminine. It's a girl or a female person, that's a feminine word, and by contrast, if it's a boy or a male person, then that's a masculine word. But some of the items are sometimes confusing for people, and whenever you think items-wise, there's actually only 6 words that are feminine. I have them listed here, and I kind of try to link them with each other, so you kind of start thinking of them in pairs, and maybe can start remembering that these are the 6 items that are actually feminine. So we have une chaise, which is a chair, and une table, which is a table. Chair, table kind of go together. Une fenêtre, a window, and une porte, a door. Again, windows and doors, kind of along the same lines of where they are in the classroom. Une carte, a map, and une télévision, a television or TV. Now, those two don't necessarily go together, but, you know, hey, they're the 2 leftovers. If you know that these are the 6 items that are feminine, you'll have no trouble remembering that everything else in this section is actually masculine. The second learning target is being able to describe the classroom, as in using those items in a complete sentence to describe what's there and what's not there and things like that. While we learned a lot of really confusing phrases for this particular learning target, there are 2 key sentence starters that if you know these, you'll probably be okay as far as what you've learned in the section. And those are the phrases il y a, which means there is or there are, and il n'y a pas de, which means there is not or are not. So all you have to do is tack on an item after either of these phrases, and you can begin describing the classroom. Things like il y a une chaise, there is a chair, or il n'y a pas de fenêtre, there is not a window. So use these to kind of be able to describe things in a complete sentence, and you'll never go wrong. The next learning target is indefinite articles. The indefinite articles in the French language are un, une, des, and de. Now, de sometimes gets shortened to d apostrophe depending on the situation, but we'll get there in just a moment. Un and une both mean a, whereas the word des means some. So un and une get used when you're just talking about one item. Des gets used when you're talking about multiple items. So what I kind of wanted everybody to know when it comes to this section is if you're trying to figure out what word to fill in on a line for a blank, it's really great to memorize your articles as you go. So when you first learn the words, memorize them with their un or their une with them. But then beyond that, whenever you actually need to figure out which word goes into a sentence, there's actually a 3-step process I want you to use. We've talked about this in class, so this is just going over this again. When you're faced with choosing an indefinite article, the first thing I want you to ask yourself is, when you're getting ready to use an article, is there the word pas right before it? When you have ne and pas in a sentence, it actually makes that sentence negative. So it's basically like the word not in English. But when you find yourself using this in a sentence, it doesn't matter whether the article typically has an un or an une in front of it. There's a weird rule in French that says the word pas cannot have the word un or une or des after it. It always changes to the word de. So when you're going to write a sentence and you're trying to figure out what article to use, if you have a pas in that sentence, you don't even have to think about whether the item is masculine or feminine or plural. Pas dictates that it has to be the word de. Or if the item that's going to come directly after it starts with a vowel, you actually drop that and you put an apostrophe. Basically, it comes down to the idea that French people don't like 2 vowel sounds at the end of a word and the beginning of the next word. Kind of makes it sound choppy. So for example, the word ordinateur, the word computer, starts with the letter O. They don't like it to sound like de ordinateur. They like it to just flow together seamlessly and be d'ordinateur. I know it's really weird for us as English speakers, but basically, it's usually the word de after the word pas, unless by chance the next word in the sentence starts with a vowel. Then you can get rid of that If you by chance have a plural noun, meaning something that's more than one, so even if it would typically be masculine or feminine, or on the list you had it as un or une, if it's got an s at the end or it's plural, I say or if it's plural because sometimes they do end plural words in an X instead of an S. Go back and check those notes if you need to. But if the word is plural, then you have to use de, D-E-S, because it means some. You don't walk around saying things like a chairs or a desks or things like that. You definitely want to say some, and that French word for some is de. So if you're going to write your sentence and you realize that the word that's coming next after your article is indeed plural, doesn't matter whether it's masculine or feminine, it has to be de. And then finally, if you've already eliminated those three choices and you're still kind of trying to figure out whether it's un or une, at that point it's just a matter of whether you have a masculine word or a feminine word. And there's no rhyme or reason as to why some are masculine or why some are feminine. It's just something you have to memorize when you first learn the word. So if it is indeed a masculine word, it'll be un. If it's feminine, it'll be une. And I just gave you the hint for this section as far as the idea that there is only 7 that would be une, that would be feminine. So having said that, let's go ahead and try a couple here. For this first one, when I was working through this, and I know you can just copy down the answer, but when I was kind of thinking my way through this, what I was thinking about was, first thing I checked for is there's no pa before the blank. So I know it's not a negative sentence. This is indeed saying in the classroom there are books. So because it's not a negative sentence, I knew I wasn't going to use de or d apostrophe. I could eliminate those as choices. The second thing I looked for is what the item I was describing was. In this case, it's livre. Notice that livre has an S at the end. That means it's books, plural. As soon as you know something is plural, it's got to be de. Doesn't matter whether it's masculine or feminine. So I stopped my line of questioning right there, wrote in de, and I knew I was good to go. This sentence means in the class or the classroom, there are some books, which is true. So for number 2, I went ahead and worked through my 3 steps again. This says in the classroom there are not, or there is not a TV, is basically what we're saying. Now as soon as I saw that pa, I immediately had an alarm that went off in my head that said, hey, if there's pa, I don't have to worry about whether it's masculine, feminine, or plural. I don't even really have to look at the word that comes after it and know what it means. I just know that it's going to be de. As soon as I wrote in my de, I went ahead and double checked that I didn't need d apostrophe, but it didn't. It didn't start with a vowel. Télé starts with a consonant with a letter T. So dans la salle de classe, il n'y a pas de télé means in the classroom there is not a television. And for our last one here, when I went to figure out this one, again, I worked through my 3 steps. First of all, it says in the class there is, and then desk is what that last word is. I noticed there's no pa, so I went ahead and eliminated de and de apostrophe as an actual option. I noticed that it is just desk and not desks, so I eliminated de. And it was only at that point that I had to decide whether the item was masculine or feminine. Now, for those of you who are already thinking to yourself, I have trouble memorizing, keep in mind that at that point at least you've eliminated 3 out of the 5 choices and you've now narrowed your choice to just 2 words. You had a 50-50 shot of getting it right. If you didn't remember, bureau is not on our list of feminine words. It's definitely masculine. So in order to say in the class there is a desk, you have to say dans la classe il y a un bureau. For our 4th learning target, it's basically being able to use and understand the word avoir, which means to have. So you want to be able to say I have, you have, he has, she has, we have, y'all have, they have. This basically comes down to memorizing all of the different forms of that verb. In English, we just have 2 forms. It's either have or has, but in French, there are several different forms. The way we did this in class was with a song. If that helps you, great. If not, that's okay. But again, I want to remind you the song is J'ai, tu as, il a, elle a, nous avons, vous avez, il et elle ont. So basically you have j'ai for I have, tu as for you have, il a for he has, elle a for she has, nous avons for we have, vous avez for y'all have, and ils ont or elles ont for they have. The last learning target has to do with being able to understand and follow classroom commands, as well as functioning in the classroom by being able to ask some questions of your own. 3 of the most missed phrases from this section are right here on your notes page, and those would be the phrases for fermez vos cahiers, which is close your notebooks, levez-vous, which is stand up, and regardez le tableau, which is look at the board. So take a moment and jot those down and make sure you're familiar with those so that whenever those come up, you are able to use them. That'll do it for this set of notes. Make sure you bring it back to class with you.